to Heroes Forge, a Heroes of the Storm podcast.
What is up, Forgers? Welcome to Season 2, Episode number 93 of Heroes Forge, a community-driven podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. As always, this podcast is brought to you by our outstanding supporters on patreon.com/HeroesForge. This is your show host, Jeff Reynolds, and I'm here with the co-host of the show who is more awesome than the feeling of washing your hands after carving a pumpkin. It's Kristen, Ashton, and Kristen, I gotta admit, for me at least, that's pretty awesome.
So are you not a fan of digging your hands into the pumpkin? Are you more of a, you'll carve it once the inside is cleaned out?
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't. It's just a texture thing. Like getting your hands in there and pulling that stuff out. It is just gross. I'm not grossed out by a lot of things. Like not a lot of things gross me out. But that for some reason grosses me out. And you know, I know people that have a year after year tradition of when there's a new baby in their family, they carve a pumpkin out and they put the baby in the pumpkin to like take a picture of them. Like, Happy Halloween, our little baby is in this pumpkin. I'm like, that's so gross for that little baby.
Did that happen to you as a child and now you have this hatred of pumpkin innards because of that? That would be hilarious if that's what happened.
It's possible. I don't know, but it's gross, but it feels awesome to wash your hands after, and that is how awesome you are, Kristen. You know what else is awesome? 18 days. 18 days until Blizzcon, coming up real quick here, and more stuff is getting announced. If you're on your phones and you want to download the Blizzcon app, you can check out all of the cool festivities and the schedule, of course, with the unannounced things on that schedule too. That really drives the hype.
It does. We got 2 weekends. I've got everything coming together. Packing won't start until the night before, but we're psyched. The map has been laid out, and I'm starting to pick my seats for the tournaments. Yep. Namely, of course, the Heroes tournaments.
Oh yeah, we're going to be parked there for a long time. So remember, if you're at BlizzCon, we would love to meet up with you guys at the Amove TV meetup. And again, more information once we get a little bit closer about where, when, how, who, and why. Well, the why is we want to meet you.
Yeah, and you want to meet us. And we want to party. We want to have some drinks. We want to scream real loud. We want to flex together. It's going to be a great time.
Absolutely. It's a blast. More on that later. Did you get to check out the Junkrat Spotlight video?
I did. He looks nuts. I think the thing I'm most excited about is that they kept the grenade bounce off of things, because I loved that in Overwatch, and I really did love Junkrat in Overwatch. So for them to keep that specific part, I'm just pleased as a pumpkin pie in Thanksgiving.
Well, that's pretty pleased. I am equally as pleased about the rocket. I think that looks really fun. The rocket ultimate, where you basically, kamikaze yourself into wherever it is on the battlefield you want to go, and then you respawn at the Hall of Storms and you ride that rocket back into the battle. That to me excites me so much, because that's really similar to the same sort of feel of the stuff that we talk about on this show. I mean, that crazy to me.
It totally is. And I think it speaks to, that speaks to, I think, a feeling of love that a lot of people have about Junkrat. He's a very clearly defined character, and he has very, very clearly defined and accepted abilities. And that alone, I think, has allowed the team to really just have fun with bringing him into Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, he looks really fun. He also looks very difficult. I can't wait to get my hands on him and try to play around and see if it's somebody that gels with my play style. I don't know about you, Kristen, but when I play this game and I pick up a new hero, I can tell in the first maybe 5 minutes if this is going to be a character that gels with my play style, and I'm feeling like those grenades are going to be just a little too skill heavy for my play style.
Maybe, right? But at the same time, don't discredit those heroes right off the bat, because sometimes you need to go away for a month and come back and suddenly you get it. Arthas, that was for me. I didn't really gel in the beginning, but I've since come back to him and I get it. and he's really incredibly powerful now,
Yeah,
for me at least.
You are really good with Arthas. When we were playing with Kel'Thuzad on our Call of Kel'Thuzad stream, you were rocking it as Arthas. It was a ton of fun. Hey, we are doing, if you've been listening to the last few episodes of the show, a special Halloween Forge every week in the month of October. It's called a Heroes Halloween here on Heroes Forge. This week is no different, but we all are also announcing something on the show this week where we're allowing the listeners of the show to also vote on the costumes that we'll be wearing on the last episode of October. So follow us on Twitter at Forge Heroes. I get tripped up because I'm like, well, what's this going to be? I need to know. I need to start preparing and all of that stuff. It'll be up this week on our Twitter page, which is at Forge Heroes on Twitter. And check it out and vote on where you want to go. We might even go different levels of voting as we go through to find the final ultimate winners for both Kristen and myself on our last episode. And it'll be a blast.
Oh, I'm excited. I love dressing up for Halloween. So any excuse I have, even if the cosplay isn't prime tier, I love it. It's so much fun to really stretch creativity in that way.
Oh, yeah. And I have my work cut out for me because on your Into the Nexus pre-shows, you do your cosplay before the show starts, and it is usually way... I mean, it's so good. We've talked about it before. It's incredible. So I'm ready. I'm putting on my cosplay hat, and we're going to get this done. Follow us on Twitter for more information on that. Kristen, next week on our Heroes Halloween, not this week, but next week, who are we going to be talking about so everybody can get a little taste of who we're going to talk about next week?
Well, next week we're kind of combining holidays because it was on Jeff to choose. And he has decided Krampus is the one we will be taking. The evil, not brother, but the evil half of the Santa Claus.
That's right. If you haven't seen the film Krampus, the new Universal film, go out there and see it. I love it. Krampus is next week, but this week, Kristen, this week is the week that we are talking about one of your ultimate faves. Before we announce that, we gotta say, let's forge.
Let's forge.
I think one of the quintessential modern horror characters out there is this character who we're talking about tonight. Who is it, Kristen?
It is Samara, and I still spook myself when I have to do research about this movie. It still gets me every time.
Did you watch it again? Because I did. I watched it last Sunday. Like right after we finished the show, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to watch this movie. And I'm not kidding you. I went into the bathroom after the show was over, and from my bathroom mirror, you can kind of see through a couple of different, hallways, and you can see the living room and the kitchen. And I was actually, for a second, scared and looking through the mirror like, wait, is somebody going to be standing behind me and I don't even know about it? I mean, it's really good.
Dude, totally. Turning on all the lights. You got to leave them on every night, all night, for at least a week until you can make sure this chick isn't going to invade your space.
Your life. Take your life, basically. I mean, that's really what it's all about. Give us a little intro on Samara and where she's from.
Alrighty. Released in 2002, The Ring is a remake of the Japanese horror film Ringu, 1998, which itself was based off of a novel of the same name published in 1991. The story follows a reporter as she seeks to uncover the mystery behind a VHS tape that seems to kill all that watch it. When her son and ex become embroiled in the horror, finding an answer becomes a race against time.
All right. I have to say before we continue, I think that the performances of the actors in this film are spot on. I think they're actually very well done. And that's not something that you normally see in a horror film is, you don't watch a horror movie usually for great performances. But I think this one actually has some pretty decent ones in it.
That's a great point. It's a very great point. And it's very clear, too, that this is a horror film that had a budget, which I think is what really makes it unique in that sense. Because a lot of the time, the beauty of the horror genre is that it's low budget filming. So they have to take very creative measures to even do what they want to do in the first place. But here you have something that had a great budget, great actors. Naomi Watts, for instance, in the lead, who carries it beautifully. And it did so well.
Yeah, it did. And I mean, I bet a lot of people out there have seen this film. If you haven't seen it, Kristen gave a really good synopsis there. Basically, there's this VHS tape that if you watch it, it tells you that you're going to die in 7 days. At the end of the film ends and then your phone rings, you pick it up. It's this really super scary voice. I mean, this is back when, the phones were attached to the wall. You pick it up. Actually, there's some cordless phones in the film. But you pick it up and it says 7 days. And then in 7 days, GG.
Exactly. GG no re is how it goes. Now, of course, Samara doesn't write that on the ground anywhere, but the whole idea is you're following the story of this reporter who's been cursed by the videotape, and through her, you see what happened. You see the story behind the curse, and then, of course, you ultimately discover how to avoid the curse, because ultimately you can't stop it.
Yeah, that's the craziest, greatest part about the end of the film. And there is I'm going to say villain, but there is a horror character in there that is out to get you. And that horror character is Samara, which is this girl. I mean, how old do you think she is?
Oh, geez, she's probably 12.
Yeah, I was going to say 12. So she's 12 years old, and she's got this really long, gothic-looking black hair that she puts in front of her face, in true terrorizing fashion, right in front of her face so you can't see her eyes or her, zombie-like features, and she basically terrorizes you.
It's true, and she does it in a very Japanese way, if you will, because this is very much a remake of Ringu, and that's a film I've watched as well, and there are a lot of similarities. The director of The Ring stayed very true to the soul of the original movie, and I found this interesting explanation as to why that horror kind of rides so heavily and differently and terrifyingly for us American audience members is because with American horror, you get a descent into the unknown. So you get these relegated spaces that are evil, and as long as you stay away from them, you're good. Whereas when you go into the more Japanese horror, it's the unknown invading the known. So suddenly your world, which was supposed to be safe, isn't safe anymore.
Yeah, that's really good analysis. I mean, that is crazy. And that's what this movie gives off. I mean, it gives off that feeling of your house, your TV, the thing you go to for comfort. Most people sleep with their TV on, not most people. Some people sleep with their TV on. You wouldn't be doing that after watching this film. I guarantee you that much. So usually what we talk about on this show is we talk about other characters that are living inside of these Blizzard games that we bring to the Nexus. We create kits for these characters and we bring them up because, it's a possibility that these characters would someday be in Heroes of the Storm. But through the month of October, we're kind of expanding to horror genre characters that live in some of the most iconic horror films, and we're kind of branching out to just do a fun month of forging here, talking about these characters. So let's talk about Samara a little bit. If she was, Kristen, to play a Blizzard game, what Blizzard game do you think Samara would play?
I think she would totally play StarCraft, and she would be Zerg 100% because of the infection, that whole idea of getting that sickness out there, and you can't stop it.
Yeah, I was definitely going to say StarCraft. I don't know why. I mean, I was just like, yep, she would play StarCraft. I don't know, maybe it's because I picture her like in a dark room playing StarCraft for like 14 hours straight, just with her head down, like looking right up at the screen, min-maxing everything and making sure everything is like really, really fast and done very quickly. And then when she beats you, she immediately queues up to the next game without even like moving.
Right, and that would explain why she looks the way she does. You need to shower, Samara. It's time to take a shower. Look at the sun outside and put on a clean dress.
That's right. Now, what do you think her favorite Blizzard character would be? Now, we're talking all universes here, not just StarCraft.
I'm thinking Tracer because of the blink ability.
Because, I mean, let's be real. The blinking could be terrifying. I mean, if you just blink right in front of somebody and scare the crap out of them, that's great.
Yeah, that's what did it for me. The complete unexpectedness of this and the ability to get around and, of course, multiplying the fear effect because does she do it once? Does she do it 2 times? Maybe 5 times? We don't know.
Yeah, and I was going to say Reaper, too, because Reaper has those, very, ethereal teleport sorts of things. That's the same feel that I got, but we're basically on the same page. Let's build these kits to see what she would be like, and maybe some of these abilities. Although Samara will never be in the Nexus, maybe some characters that they bring from other Blizzard universes could have abilities that are like the ones that we're coming up with tonight. Who knows? Let's find out. Kristen, you get the honor of starting tonight because you picked Samara. So what do you think her role classification would be if she joined the Nexus?
All right, hold on to your knees, everybody, because I changed it up this week. Specialist. I dropped the assassin because it's so easy to make every horror character an assassin because their main goal is to either kill or incapacitate you. But I was thinking specialist because of how this kit came together. Nice.
I'm really excited because I definitely fell into the stereotype of making her an assassin. So now we have 2 great kits that could be completely different. So what trait goes along with this? So wait, before we get to that, I want to ask you, did you choose this role classification and build off of it, or did you come up with a trait and then you started building abilities and thought, you know what, this feels really specialist-y. I want to really go in there and make it more specialist-y.
That's a great question. It initially was assassin, of course, single target, go in, kill him, get out kind of a thing. But as I started piecing together these abilities and what the trait was going to be, she couldn't be an assassin of sorts, even though she's more assassin-y than she would be lane clear.
Totally. And that's usually how I go about when I'm making these kits for the show, is the same sort of idea where I start forging all of these things and think, you know what, this kind of fits as a specialist, so I'm going to morph what I've done into more specialist-y stuff. And it's really cool to watch the Resurrecting Kel'Thuzad videos on YouTube about how Blizzard themselves made Kel'Thuzad and how they have a process that is very in-depth like that, where they have these ideas for abilities and they have these ideas for a lot of the other stuff that's going on for the character, and then they have to go in and test it all out to see how it actually fits together. And they may start with an assassin and then end up molding it into a specialist. So it's really cool. So what is the trait that goes along with your specialist?
Trait, I've gone with Herald of the Coming. In the movie, Samara gives individuals 7 days to figure out the puzzle that is her curse. In this sense, the player of Samara will work as the signs of her coming, building up fear levels in enemy players that can be used to her advantage later. At the start of the game, though, a cursed video plays on all enemy screens.
Oh, yeah! That's so awesome. That is great. So instead of like, hey, find your Pakemare and make sure that you get your, your golden Pakemare so that you can get your thing, the screen, what are you imagining it does?
Oh, it would have to be full on ring. You'd have to have that scritch and the fuzz, and then it cuts to some weird looking thing, and there's some odd, creepy sounds going on, and then it cuts to another image and another, and it's just really flippin' disturbing. And then suddenly you're back in the Nexus going, what?
I love it. That is such a cool idea. So talking about this trait, you're imagining that each one of the individual players on the enemy team has a different fear level against Samara, or is the enemy team, like the levels that we gain together, also gaining different fear level together?
These would be individual.
Okay, cool. I can't wait to hear about it. What about mounting? Do you think she would ride a mount in the Nexus?
No, because you technically won't be playing as Samara until we get to the heroics. So there's just no mount.
Dang. Let's hear it then. Let's hear the first basic ability.
All right, the first one is called Sign of the Devil. Summoning down a swarm of flies made even worse by a loud, unyielding buzzing. The player uses this swarm to blind enemy heroes both visually and aurally. The longer the swarm remains on an enemy, the more stacks of fear they accrue. This also adds up faster when enemies are grouped up versus being alone.
All right, so we're talking like an Abathur sort of playstyle here, where you don't have Samara on the actual battlefield, but you're controlling these swarms of flies. Can they be spawned anywhere on the map that you have vision?
Correct. These can be spawned. I like to imagine that these abilities only can be spawned on enemy heroes or units you can see. If it's a unit, you would then, of course, want to move off the unit and find an enemy hero to latch onto so you could build up those fear stacks. And then, of course, the gaining of fear stacks more in a group versus more alone kind of helps you determine what situations you would use those specific abilities in.
Nice. This is really unique and super cool. So when you say visually and aurally, you're talking about the whole screen of the player here. We're not just talking about, they're not blinded. The character's not blinded as we know it in the Nexus now. Or is that what you mean?
That's what I meant. So the hero itself would be blinded. You could still do your magic and everything. That's not a problem. But the basic attacks would miss. But the aurally, I mean, in your ears, you would hear buzzing, which would kind of drown out the rest of the game noises.
Which could be a huge effect on what's happening to you and your teammates. It's so cool. I cheated a little bit and I saw the name of your next ability, and I think it is so cool.
All right, well, the next one is called Nosebleed. Because an actual nosebleed can't be seen on an enemy in the heat of battle, this telegraphs as a curse with a symbol above the affected enemy's head. This nosebleed results in health depletion for a period of time. If this happens in a group, nearby enemies gain fewer fear points, but not many. If it happens to a loner, however, they take a lot more damage and become a lot more scared.
Oh, this is so cool. Okay, so your Q, Sign of the Devil with the flies and the swarm, that affects groups more. But this W, Nosebleed, this affects solo heroes more.
Exactly. And I'm kind of playing off the idea here that there was that quote in Men in Black where a person is smart, people are dumb, panicky, stupid animals. So when you get a group together with this weird occurrence of flies everywhere, the fear is going to spread. Whereas if it's a nosebleed, 4 other people are going to tell you to just, hold your head back or wipe it away, you'll be fine. But if you're by yourself, maybe it's not okay.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. So how do you target a player for this? It works like you just point and click. This player gets a nosebleed now. There's no sort of skill shots or anything like that. It's just kind of like, whoa, what's happening to me? My nose is just bleeding. That kind of feeling.
Exactly. Everyone on the enemy team has been cursed from the get-go, so that inherently gives Samara power over them.
Oh, and that's from the video at the opening of the game. That is so legit. I love it. Okay, third basic ability here.
All right, third one is called Burned Images. I'm nerding out over this one. The screen scratches. It does one of those fuzzy things and kind of distorts, and then it's back to normal. Was that a girl crawling into a bush? Was there something that appeared behind you? Having 3 stacks, the Samara player chooses an enemy hero and causes them to see things that may or may not be real. Other nearby enemies can see this as well, but only if their fear level is high enough. Those that see this gain more fear. If stacks are at max, the image appears on them immediately and does damage before being scratched away.
Oh, this is so cool. This is exactly what I was talking about standing in the bathroom, looking in the mirror and seeing something behind you that's not actually there. So you're seeing, let's say I'm playing ETC. I'm in the mid lane. It's just me that's in that mid lane. This ability gets activated. My screen kind of freaks out. How long does it freak out for? Do I know this has happened to me, or is it something that it just happens without me knowing?
You would totally know because the screen would distort. Normal, there's someone behind you, distort, and it's back to normal. No one was there.
Oh, it's so cool. It's such a great idea. So can you attack what you see, or are you betting on the fact that I'm ETC, I see somebody that just like crawled into a bush. That's where that person was, so I'm gonna go into that area, but lo and behold, it's actually something else that's in there or whatever it is that gets you.
It doesn't spawn anything. The only thing this is used for is to build fear stacks.
Oh.
So if you've gotten them scared enough with your Q and W, then you can start using this to really pump up the fear, because once their fear stacks are high enough, you can trigger this on an enemy hero and it'll flash, they'll see something and it's gone. I mean, this is immediate. As fast as you can make it happen without pulling them out of the game, without forcing a reaction.
Right, I see what you're saying. So you're using this to just purely build that fear up, which it comes with a really cool visual doing it too.
Exactly. You want to unsettle them as much as possible, because when we get to level 10, well, then things get interesting.
Oh, let's hear it. What's your first heroic?
Okay, the first one is called Suffocation. Seeing the infected enemy hero full of fear and cursed by her adopted child, Anna Morgan appears suddenly behind the target unit and suffocates them with a trash bag. This locks the enemy in place and decreases their health in larger increments the longer the attack goes on. The length is determined by the number of fear stacks that enemy has. Only other enemy heroes with the same number of fear stacks can see and target Morgan to reduce the time of this heroic.
Oh, man, this is scary stuff right here. So basically, you're standing there all alone. All of a sudden, Morgan comes up behind you, just like appears, throws this bag over your head, starts suffocating you. If you're very afraid of the Samara player, you are stuck in this position. If my fear level is really low and I'm watching this happen to you, I just see you standing there.
Exactly. You just see who would be your ally standing there, losing health all of a sudden. And maybe you could talent in that this adds fear to everyone who sees it but can't see Anna.
Yeah, that is so scary. I mean, it's terrifying. So is the goal with this that you, I mean, because ultimately when you're playing this specialist version of this character, you want to be spreading the fear equally around the entire enemy team to gain the most effectiveness. But I could see how if you were picking Suffocation, if you knew you were going to do that at the beginning of the game, you would target one player a little bit more than any other character. That way you could do more with this ability to that person.
Exactly. This would be your single target delete. And if you're on a wide map like Warhead Junction, for instance, where you know heroes are going to be isolated and they're going to be isolated a lot, this would absolutely be a great pick.
Oh, it's great. So if the enemy team takes out Anna Morgan, what does that do to the Samara player? Does it just end the ability? Is that all that it does? It doesn't like put her on a cooldown or any sort of like death timer?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I would imagine there would be a cooldown that would last a good amount of time, just so you're not back to your fear tricks too soon after such a powerful thing has gone off.
Is there any way for the enemy team to lose fear?
No, not by themselves. I mean, once this goes off, I would imagine the total fear stacks of those involved would be reduced because they've dealt with the horror. So therefore, they're a bit sturdier. They've come back to reality a bit more. So then, of course, you're still giving the Samara player something to do, which is rebuild the stacks until it's time to pop the heroic again.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I totally get it. I love that idea. I think it's great. And chat also agrees, saying that if the enemy team doesn't have enough fear to see this happening, they would probably get a little more scared of, Nova over here gasping for air, Sith choke over in the corner, but really... I mean, that's scary. What's your second heroic?
All right, the second one, 7 days. Near to the team fight, a well is uncovered. Slowly but surely, a small girl crawls out in an inhuman fashion. Once out, she begins her slow march forward. She is untargetable and she cannot take damage. After she gets close enough to what we assume is a group of enemy heroes, she vanishes and almost instantaneously reappears in front of one enemy, then another, and another until all nearby enemies have faced her. Each is stunned in turn and takes damage based on how many fear stacks they have. Those with maximum stacks are feared away from the fight, only to die 7 seconds later.
Oh, boom. I love it. Okay, so again, building that fear up. So this is your... I love what you did with this, because you've got single target abilities and group abilities. And then you got a single target heroic and a group heroic. This is great. So you're basically trying to get everybody on this kit, on this choice, to be equal level fear as high as possible. So when you jump in there, you can throw the 7 days down. And if they're all at maximum fear, that's going to do some pretty crazy damage.
Got a team kill on your hands right there. But yeah, and I want this to kind of force enemies to think about where they appear on the minimap, when they appear on the minimap, and when they disappear. Because if you have this evil entity always trying to hunt you down, but it can only get to you if it sees you on a minimap, there are precautions you can take. But you can assume 1 or 2 people, especially later on, aren't really going to respect the power that you hold over them. And so maybe this could be a late game winner for your own team.
Oh, absolutely. And I love the visuals for this. It's totally the movie with the well. And when you say in inhuman fashion, what are you seeing here? Like crawling out? What do you see?
Oh, I see it just like the video. And what I learned about how they filmed that scene is they actually filmed the actress walking backward toward the well. And then they played it forward to create that weird kind of movement that just, tingles down the spine.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. Oh, man. It holds up, people. Even the cordless phones and everything, that film holds up well. It's very good. Watch it. I think it's on Netflix. I think that's how I watched it. So get out there and watch it. It's a ton of fun. Actually, it's on HBO. Okay, Kristen, this is a killer kit. It's really cool. How do you sum this whole thing up?
All's well that ends well.
Incredible. Very, very, very smart. I love it. It's very cool. I love the single target, group target. I love the trait. I love the idea. And I think that is something that could definitely be in the game, where each character that's on the enemy team is affected by you in a different way because of their experiences with you specifically in the game. Now, we see things like this already. For example, like Anna, right? She can put these stacks on you, up to 5 stacks, and then you take more damage depending on how many stacks. These stacks eventually fall off and all of that is great. But with something like this, you're really building it up indefinitely throughout the game. I think something like this could exist in the game because basically, I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but we do this already with like the level increasing on our team's side, right? So we're getting stronger and stronger and stronger against you, and if you don't get stronger with us, then we're going to stomp you, right? That's the kind of feeling I get with this.
Very much so, very much so. And maybe she would be used as a carry in a sense, right? Because this stuff, you're going to be drawn into a team fight. You're going to be on the mini-map at some point. And if you have a player who is very, very aware of the mini-map and very, very aware of the weaknesses of the different heroes she's up against, she could be devastating.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and vice versa. I mean, you really got to pay attention if you're on the enemy team a lot. And if you do, you can make some serious plays. So, very cool kit. Before we get on to my kit, we have some people that we need to thank as always. And first and foremost, we need to thank all of our awesome supporters on patreon.com/HeroesForge. Thank you so much for helping keep this show go week after week. We're on 93 episodes and we're looking forward to the next 903 episodes coming up with more characters characters talking about kits for Heroes of the Storm. Thank you. If you'd like to support the show and throw us $1 or $2, you can do that on patreon.com/HeroesForge. And thank you again to all of our current supporters. Thank you to everyone that has given us a 5-star review on iTunes. The show really grows when people search for all of the great Heroes of the Storm podcasts out there, and your reviews help people pick what to listen to. So thank you so much. If you like the show and you'd like to give us a 5-star review on iTunes, we'll give you a shout out on the show thanking you for your support right here on the show as soon as we get your review. So thank you. And Kristen, it's time for me to get completely stomped because that kit was so good, but I'm going to try here with some crazy stuff, and I'm going with the role of assassin.
It's great. I mean, that she kills people. That's what she does. That's her whole purpose of continuing to exist after death, is get her story out there and kill those that don't figure out the puzzle. Absolutely. And I bet you can't guess what the trait is over here. It's called 7 days. You got it, right? You have to. I mean, it's probably the memeiest thing that ever came out of that movie, because I remember for years after 7 days just being a raucous good time. Yeah. Did anyone ever call you on like your house phone and say 7 days and then hang up? Yeah. We had some good times back then. Yeah. Not funny, friends. Not funny. All right. So this trait, 7 days, the fantasy with this kit is that she'll be a high damage assassin in the beginning of the game and then transition to a high utility hero later in the game. To achieve this, her trait 7 days, stick with me, makes her level 7 for the entire game. She is given her heroic at the start of the game and only has 1 to choose from. She will remain level 7 from the start of the game to the end of the game. This makes her a force to be reckoned with at the beginning of the match, but she will also need to focus on being a utility player later in the game when other heroes out-level her. Ooh, this is interesting. So why did you pick level 7? I mean, of course, 7 days, right? But were you tempted to go with something like level 14? I was, and I think that what would be really interesting with this is the fact that I feel like 7 is a good area around middle of the game, right? When things start to get to 10 and beyond, I feel like the game pace picks up very quickly, and that's where I feel like, that's when stuff's gonna start happening, like crazy team fights and stuff. I think this would probably be a little overpowered, especially at the beginning of the game, because when you're level 7 and everyone else is level 1, you're wrecking fools out there. I mean, you would be destroying. So maybe she would have to scale in some way with all of the rest of the team to kind of make it better, but she would still, I want her to stay the same throughout the game so that you have that forced switch in your mind where you go, okay, wait, it's later in the game, I can't play the way that I was playing before, I have to play this way now. Oh, okay, so now I'm sure your abilities will explain why you're doing the switch, and that has me intrigued. Well, first and foremost, the reason I'm doing the switch is because I'm having a ton of fun playing Garrosh, and Garrosh is, in my opinion, not the world's best tank, right? I mean, I see him, and he needs his own classification that's like utility, because it's that utility of the pull and the toss that makes him killer. I mean, his auto attacks are trash. Like, he's in there even his heal is like really, really weak. And so, but man, if you can pull off that pull and toss and pull and toss and pull and toss yourself to victory, that's what I've been like, so you know what? I'm going to do that with Samara a little bit. So for that's fascinating. Yeah, keep going. So for her mount, I'm saying that she would ride a little red toy tricycle just because I think that's scary. Well, you gotta call out to the shining, right? Yeah. I mean, kids on tricycles. I don't think there's ever been a horror movie that's utilized children and hasn't been in some way terrifying. Yeah, and so Little Red Tricycle, I mean, it's also in the Saw films, that little puppet thing rides a tricycle. Who knows why tricycles are scary, but Samara in my kit is gonna ride one, and then she has a basic ability called Paralyzing Stare.
So Samara picks a target in range and stares at them with her dark eyes. If the enemy makes face-to-face, quote-unquote, eye contact with her while this ability is activated, they will be frozen in place for a short amount of time. Now, Samara can choose to engage the target that's frozen or remain at a safe distance. If she chooses to engage and reaches the target while they're frozen, they'll take increased auto attack damage from the first hit that Samara deals to them and will become unstunned. So they're stunned until they get hit, and they take a lot of damage from that hit, and then they're unstunned. If she stays at a safe distance and does not engage the stunned enemy, they will remain stunned for the full duration of this ability.
Okay, so when you say face to face, so this has a distance, correct?
Yeah, it does. So this is how I see it happening. You're standing in the lane. Samara does some sort of, scream or, screech, and you know that this ability is coming. It has a wind up. So if you're on the enemy team, you got to turn away from her. If you're facing anywhere towards her, you're going to get stunned.
Nice. So it's basically like slide to the left, slide to the right, but your life is dependent upon not falling into this trap. Don't make eye contact.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, imagine if you're running away from your favorite horror villain, right? As soon as you look back and you see somebody standing there, you freeze. You're paralyzed. So if you're just focused on don't look down kind of thing, just keep on running straight away, I think it has a cool idea behind facing in the game.
Yeah, totally. Now, when she walks up to hit them, how does she hit them? How do you see this? And is it going to do a percentage of their health, or is it more just a set number that'll be scarier if you're only Ming versus if you're an ETC?
I think that it will. I mean, that's a really good point. That would have to scale, right? Or it wouldn't feel... Or maybe it wouldn't. Maybe it just does a ton of damage at the beginning and she has a really low health pool. I don't know. You'd have to balance it out. You'd have to figure out how it would feel good at the beginning but bad at the end, which is a mathematical puzzle that's crazy.
And I like it too because that's what happens with the horror villains, right? Once you figure out the secret, they're not that scary anymore. So I like this idea that the enemy team will reach a point when they figure her out, and then they don't have to worry about her too much anymore until she starts to, of course, take on her utility abilities.
Yeah, which is this ability. The reason it becomes utility is because if there's a big team fight happening, and I was just thinking about this too, on the minimap you can see the facing of characters now, like what direction they're traveling, what direction they're facing. So this would be a super tool for the Samara player. And if they're all facing on a temple in one direction and she happens to be in a bush, you just hear the screech, and then they're all paralyzed from that and they take attacks. Now, Chad is saying that if you don't face her, are you slowed or affected at all? And the answer is no, you're not. So you got to really focus on, you hear it, you turn. Now, that turn could kill you because somebody could be fighting you at that time. So that's the thought behind it.
Yeah. Oh, and you said enemy heroes, plural. So this doesn't this doesn't hit one target. It can hit everyone who's looking at you.
Yeah, I imagine that it has a huge cone that comes out of the front of her. So the player would be able to see kind of like a Cho'Gall heroic pull, whatever that's called, because I can't remember. But whatever that is, the groundbreaker pull thing, it would be that big of a cone in front of you, and anybody in that area would get feared if they looked at you. Now, comboed with the second basic ability, this one's called Fingernails. Samara reaches out with a scratching cleave attack that deals damage to all targets that are hit by it. It also marks the player with something I'm calling panic. Heroes that have the panic debuff will have the possibility of running in fear within the next 10 seconds in a random direction. This is not something that is guaranteed to happen, but could happen to the player during the next 10 seconds. I'm thinking the percentage of this happening starts at about 30% for the Samara player. So you get hit with this scratch, right? And you are in your head thinking, in the next 10 seconds, I could get feared in a random direction. There's a 30% chance that it could happen.
That's a good way to get people to start running back away, to start a retreat when it otherwise would have been a great push.
Yeah, it's that, and it's also like, I was going for like a horror thing here, where you're thinking to yourself as you're in there, this is scary because if I'm in the middle of a team fight and I get hit by this, it's a low percentage chance that it could happen, but I could get feared, and it could happen 1 second after it happens or 9 seconds after it happens.
Right, and could you imagine if there was a 10-second countdown above your head, so you were watching it, scared out of your mind that you're going to get feared somewhere if you decided to fight a bit too long.
Oh, I love it. And then if it goes away, you're like, oh, I made it, only to be struck again. It's crazy.
So you're thinking a very short cooldown then?
No, not a super short cooldown, because I want it to cleave. I want you to be able to hit multiple heroes with this, so that, you know, you hit 3 and you've got a greater chance of fearing one of them.
I like the imagery of this, because she seems like she's a get in, smack, get out type of girl. Then we're gonna stun them, or maybe we fear them. They're running in a direction. You jump in front of them and you stare them down.
That's what I wanted. I wanted them to be running away, and for you to get in front of them and then screech and fear them. And then the third basic ability is called True Horror. So with True Horror, Samara calls forth a well from the ground at a target location. When she calls this well, she also gets to set a target destination of the ability. Now this works like a Ragnaros activating his meteor ability, right? You pick the place where the meteor is going to start, and then you drag it, you know, in the direction that you want the meteor to go. So with that same thought, the direction that she chooses, after she selects the direction, she is instantly teleported to the well and begins to crawl out of it and slowly walk in the selected direction. All enemies that are in her path will only be able to move directly away from her. They won't be able to advance towards the well. They'll only be able to move away from her.
Interesting. So even if they're facing her, they're gonna be forced backwards, assuming people aren't trying to control the movements.
Correct. So it would kind of be like you're hitting an invisible wall if you're running towards Samara. You wouldn't be able to move at all. You could turn around and go the other direction, but you just couldn't move towards her because you'd be terrified of it. You'd want to run away.
Awesome. So what is the size of this aura then? Is it just the line, or does she have an aura around her that's kind of like that invisible wall that's pushing everyone?
Great question. I imagine it to be the length of a medium-sized Gazlo beam. So not the full thick Gazlo beam or the skinny one at the beginning, but the medium one, that size and about that length in front of her. And she's walking forward, so that moves a little bit with her as she goes. This is not a super long ability, but it does force them to retreat rather than advance.
Oh, that is nice. Oh my goodness. And can you cast your Q while you're walking?
No, you can't do anything while you're walking. It's kind of like a skeletal swing where you have to wait till the end of the ability, and then you could cast your Q if the enemy was foolish enough to stay put, and then you go for your combo and you try to get the whole thing down. And speaking of the previous ability, the Fingernails with the fear, T-Melt in the chat is asking how long the fear would be, and because this isn't super heroic, we want it to be short, right? I would imagine it would be a shorter type of fear rather than a Gul'dan fear, which can feel like it goes on for an eternity.
If you're running into enemy tower range, sure. So like maybe half of a Gul'dan fear.
Yeah, maybe half. So that's my thought on that. Now, let's talk about heroics. Now, because of her crazy trait where she only gets to have level 7 the entire game, she only has one heroic, and it's called Be Kind, Rewind. So Samara selects an area on the battlefield, and this ability will affect all players, friend and foe, in the area. When activated, all players in the circle of the ability will have their screens turned to a VHS station that will not be able to attack. So this is basically that, kind of thing in this area. They're not able to see anything. Now, during this time, Samara is the only hero that's not affected, and she can choose to attack an enemy hero. When they are attacked, a huge image of Samara will pop up on the screen, accompanied with a very loud scream. This knocks the player out of the static screen, but they do take damage from the attack as well.
I have been gotten by this before. I remember it was back in college. My friend sent me a video. Check out this crazy car commercial. There's a mist you should pay attention to. I don't think my heart stopped beating super fast the entire rest of that day. Coupled with Five Nights at Freddy's. Oh, this is when Kristen never plays with sound on her Heroes game ever again.
Yeah, so basically, this is just a crazy thing that I think would be really... I really like to, like you did as well, manipulate with what we can see and hear in the game. I think there's a great opportunity for growth in that department in the game. Now, would that be fun? Maybe. I mean, maybe they've tried things like this in the testing areas and they've decided this just isn't fun to play against this sort of type of thing. But we don't know. So this is something that I think would be crazy, to just have your screen go black, or have this, we've talked about it before on the show where, you fall asleep by some character and your screen goes completely black because you're asleep. Or if, they have the screen pop up of watching the VHS, something like that. So that was my idea here. So she only has one heroic because she gets it from the beginning of the game. And it's not super powerful, although not being able to see at the right moment can make or break what's going on.
Yeah, no, when you're in this, if you leave the area unbeknownst to you because you've got a fuzzy screen on your screen, are you automatically knocked out of it?
No, you are set for it for the duration of the ability unless she chooses to attack you.
Fair enough. So how much time does she have to choose a target, and can she choose more than one?
No, she can choose one target and she doesn't have a whole lot of time. She's got to really be somewhere close, up close and personal, or have somebody paralyzed and then hit it. And then, imagine that combo, right? You're paralyzed because you couldn't walk towards her and you decided to stay there. You're paralyzed, you get scratched, you're running in fear. Then all of a sudden your screen goes fuzzy and then she pops up on the screen, scares the living daylights out of you.
I think that alone would get enemies to quit. All of a sudden you're getting plug pulls across the nation.
Player has left the game. So that's what I wanted to go with this kit, is just a hero that changes throughout the play of the game. So at the beginning you would be pulling off those combos because you'd be wanting to get those kills as an assassin, and then using the utility later in the game where you're just out to paralyze people. You're just out to make their screens fuzzy, and you're not going to engage them because if you do, you'll lose the engagement, but you're using it for the benefit of your other team members. So, it's a different way of looking at it.
Right, and you keep her the same because she's the same thing. It really embodies, like I said earlier, it's the curse. Once you figure it out, it doesn't really hold power over you. However, that doesn't mean it can't mess up your day.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. So that's my kit, that's your kit, but before we can call these heroes forged, we've got to talk about the best part, specialty skins and dance moves. Kristen, hit us with your first specialty skin.
All right. I thought this would be adorable if we gave ourselves a tsundere Samara. She's got big anime eyes, permanent blush on her cheeks, and refers to everyone as Baka.
Terrifying in its own way.
Right, and then maybe the animations wouldn't be so dark. They would be kind of jovial and overly cute. Disturbingly, just slightly, right, that line between it's cute, but...
I love it. I think it's
that's
so
way
great.
Too cute.
That's a little...
Whimsy Shire, get out of here.
It's a little too cute. Now mine kind of swings the pendulum to the other direction, and I'm saying her specialty skin would be a goth Blockbuster store employee. So she's wearing the whole, Blockbuster outfit. And then for skin variation, she would have a Hollywood video skin and then also a game crazy skin because, there are video game rental places out there too.
That's perfect. And she hands out the videotape like she always wanted to. I imagine she's like popping gum.
Yeah.
Just the nails are black, got the black lipstick on.
She's gone into every one of the... I mean, I don't know. When you used to rent VHSs, did they come in this, like, plastic case? There was one place I used to go. Not Blockbuster, because they had the one that you would actually open up, right? There was one place I used to go that was actually in a grocery store to rent VHSs. And they went in this plastic case that you'd have to squeeze the bottom of it, and then you could get the video out of it, and then you could put it back in. Do you know what I'm talking about, or am I making this up?
I've never seen that before, but I don't think you're making it up. I mean, I've been across this country, east to west, and there are some things that are very native to different areas.
Arizona, weird VHS cartridges. All right, dance moves. My dance move is when she types /dance, a TV will appear and she watches an undead dance class on the screen and mimics all of the movements that are happening on it. I needed to put a TV in there.
That's pretty cute. And watching the TV, is it an 80s ghost dance class where they have the leg and wrist warmers, or are we talking a more 90s where they're doing step aerobics?
I was gonna say Richard Simmons, but I think I've talked about Richard Simmons on this show before, so I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna overload 100 episodes with 2 topics about Richard Simmons. So
you absolutely can. We all have our favorites.
All right, so
and if you like Richard Simmons, by golly, he's going into the Nexus.
Oh my. Okay, it's Richard Simmons. Kristen, what's your dance move?
I was thinking Thriller, but not the whole dance. This would be the part where they're just stamping their feet and they're throwing their heads to their shoulders.
Oh, and then you could put Leoric's dance in there, which is the next part of it, and you could have eventually you could have the entire Thriller dance out there, and then we just need to, have a whole group of zombie undead characters.
Exactly, and then some creative soul spends hours painstakingly putting together a 5-minute video that goes on YouTube, and everybody loves it.
Absolutely. I'm already pressing the like and thumbs up button, and I don't even know that video exists yet.
Not yet, but one day soon.
Absolutely. Well, after the specialty skins and dance moves, we can definitely say that this hero was forged. Oh, what a blast. These Halloween episodes have been so cool to kind of think. Normally we think outside the box, but we're thinking outside the universe of what we know for Blizzard characters this month. It has been so cool talking about Samara, watching The Ring, building these ideas. And like I said when the show started at the beginning, Kristen, I can see a lot of these things taking shape in other characters throughout these Blizzard universes. Warcraft, Starcraft, something like this could happen.
Yeah, what we're doing here isn't too different, right? Because if we look hard enough, we can find similarities between characters that are outside of the Blizzard universe and characters that are inside of the Blizzard universes. Because ultimately, the creators of these characters within the Blizzard universe have been influenced by the outside creative worlds.
Absolutely. And we can speak to that kind of from a personal experience, right? Because last year at Blizzcon, we had the awesome opportunity of touring the Blizzard campus last year, and we went into their library, which is insane, right? They have this really awesome wooden dungeon door, and you have to use 2 hands to open this huge door and go inside, and you wouldn't believe the plethora of video games and movies and books and design. I mean, there's tables and shelves of all of this stuff that helps them get inspired to create their own things. I mean, so that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, totally. And I think it would surprise a lot of people who haven't really dealt with creation how much research goes into creating something good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it's worth doing, it's probably really difficult to get it done. So, tipping my cap to all those people that are able to create all of the awesome stuff that we get to play with every single day. So very, very cool. Awesome kits for Samara. Don't forget, next week we are forging Krampus, which is going to be another crazy episode. I think we have 3 more or 2 more episodes of the Halloween forging.
We have 2 more, including Krampus.
All right, here we go. We got more stuff coming for you for Halloween. Then after that, we'll be at Blizzcon. And then after that, we'll be back to forging Blizzard characters right here on the show. So hang tight as we get through all of these awesome episodes moving forward into next year and on to our episode number 100, which is going to be insanity. We're already in the planning of it now. We're about 7 weeks away. I can't wait. Kristen, where can people find you on the interwebs when you're not on this show?
On the interwebs, you can find me at Dream Destroyer. That is DRMDESTRYR over at Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
And we talked about it before the show. Are you playing Dark Souls 3 on your stream now?
I am. We successfully completed Dark Souls 2. It went down. And now we are into Dark Souls 3, and I have to tell you, it is a beautiful game, and it plays smoother than any of the other Dark Souls games I've ever played. So I am just out of my mind with excitement to see what kind of areas they come up with, and also bosses.
Yeah, it's very hard. It's very fun. It's very hard. I'm playing it as well. It is very fun and very rewarding when you finally beat what is frustrating you for hours and hours and hours and hours. If you're looking for me, you can find me right here on HeroesForge. We record the show live every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/Amove TV because we are a part of the Amove TV podcast and entertainment network. For more great esports and video game podcasts, make sure you check out Amove.tv. Some killer content is over there. Check it out. And also the Amove TV meetup information will be posted on that site, Amove.tv, at a later date. This show can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, any of your favorite podcasting apps. So if you can't catch us live, you can always listen to it on the go when you're commuting or maybe just, outside mowing the grass and doing yard work and you want something to listen to that helps you pass the time. HeroesForge is the thing to do. Also, you can check out our website, which is heroesforge.club. Over there, we have all of the audio recordings and VODs of all of the episodes that we've done. You can check it out, and you can also get in contact with us at the website. There's a contact tab in the upper right-hand corner where you can click and chat with us and let us know your thoughts on the show. And if you have a character that you'd like to see on the show, to send us an idea there. Or you can send us an email. contactheroesforge@gmail.com is the address to send it to. Each month we do an episode called The Featured Forger, where we take an idea from our listeners like you and we forge off of that idea. This month is a little different, so we're not able to do the Featured Forger this month, but next month we're looking to do multiple Featured Forgers to kind of catch up to where we're at and to feature a whole bunch of kits and builds. So check out the website or email us your ideas. Don't forget, a huge thank you to all of our patrons out there on patreon.com/HeroesForge for supporting the show. Head on over there to throw us a buck or two and help the show keep going week after week. And if you're looking for something to do on Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific, you got to check out our Divinity 2 stream, which happens on twitch.tv/Kyle Ferguson. Divinity 2 Original Sin is a game that's basically a tabletop RPG, but played in a virtual world. I mean, it's a video game.
It really is, but highly influenced by Dungeons and Dragons, and not just Dungeons and Dragons. You're right, tabletop RPGs in general. The most tabletop video game I think I've ever played.
Yeah, it's really great. And some people were asking us on Twitter today if it was a good thing, even if you hadn't played a tabletop game before. And I think we both replied saying, heck yeah, get in there and play the game. It teaches you, gets you hyped to play tabletop games with your friend. And also check out this stream, because I have learned so much just playing this over the last 3 weeks. And we do it every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific, again on twitch.tv/Kyle Ferguson. And on Kyle Ferguson's channel, check out all of his awesome Heroes of the Storm content as well. Kristen, any last thoughts on Samara?
I love her. She is a part of my history, as it were. I think we all have those horror characters that sit with us because we saw them at a very pivotal point in our lives, and it did something with our brains that we'd never expected. Blew our minds in a way. So she always has a special place in my heart because of that.
Are you a little sad that we're done forging her now? I mean, we've finished it. Samara is in the books. She'll be on the website. And then, next year, we're going to have to pick some different Halloween characters.
I'm a little sad, but at the same time, I'm happy to see it go because that means I won't have to subject myself to such fearful torture.
Of watching that movie again and again and again and again. All right, everybody out there, thank you so much for listening. This has been episode number 93 of Heroes Forge, and we'll catch you all in the real world. And one more thing, 7 days.